Even if they had a healthy marriage, it can be better during this time. And if you had a troubled marriage, I believe we can turn that thing around during this time.
And it's you and me, babe, whatever comes. Knowing bigger hands are holding ours, and the greatest days are ahead of us. Growing in love, learning to be a better us.
Hi there, welcome to A Better Us, and welcome to our home.
During the unusual time of the COVID-19 pandemic, I think we've all experienced some unexpected stressors in our marriages.
That's so true, isn't it? Many of us have been stuck at home together.
Wait, did you just say that with an attitude?
No attitude, not at all.
I definitely heard a tone in there.
No, there was no tone, hon.
Well, it's a good thing we have the 5 love languages guy,
Right.
Dr. Gary Chapman. He's with us today.
He's sharing 5 simple ways to strengthen your marriage when you're stuck at home together.
There's that tone again.
No, really, that's actually the title of his new book.
Oh, okay. And that's exactly what we're going to be talking about with our kitchen couples from their own kitchens via Zoom.
Right, and they are CFL football great Mike Pinball Clemens and his wife Diane,
Recording artist Dan McCauley and his wife Danielle.
and youth and children's pastors Eric and Kara Maines.
So come on inside and let's get started.
Well, Ron and Ann, it's good to be back with you. And I'm really excited about this new book because I know that we're all in the same storm, and I do believe that the 5 things that I share in this book will help couples. Even if they had a healthy marriage, it can be better during this time. And if you had a troubled marriage, I believe we can turn that thing around during this time. So one of the ideas I share is, what if we call a truce on throwing verbal bombs at each other? I'm talking about such things as, "You're just like your father, irresponsible." Whoa. Now, we all say things like that from time to time. It's a verbal bomb, and when you throw a bomb, it explodes in the mind and heart of the other person. We're literally destroying our marriage when we do that. And then if we agree on a truce for 3 weeks, we're not going to do that. Then the second week, let's say, what if we start giving each other a compliment each week? I give you one, you give me one. And let's see what happens. I'm telling you, in 3 weeks, it can really change the atmosphere. I had a husband who said to me, "Well, Dr. Chapman, I don't know. I just don't ever say things like that. I don't know if I can give a compliment." And I said, "Well, is there anything good about your wife?" He said, "Well, yes." I said, "Well, give me 3 of them." He said, "Well, she's a good cook, she's a good mother, and she's a good school teacher." I said, "Okay." So I wrote him 3 sentences, 3 compliments out beside each one of those. Like, "Honey, I haven't told you this in a long time, but I really appreciate the way you cook. It's just wonderful. I appreciate your meals." I wrote them out for him. I said, "Now go home, stand in front of the mirror by yourself and read them twice a day, all 3 of them." He came back next week and I said, "Now, can you say them without looking at your notes?" And he did. He stumbled, but he did. And I said, "Now, I want you to go home and I want you to say one of these to your wife every week for the next 3 weeks." He came back after that and said, "Dr. Chapman, I did it." I said, "How did she respond?" He said, "Well," she said, what's going on with you? I've never heard you give me so many compliments." He said, "Well, I'm just trying to learn how to share with you how much I really do appreciate you." And she said, "That is so sweet. I love you." And he said, "She hadn't said that in a long time." There's an ancient Hebrew proverb that says life and death is in the power of the tongue. So let's stop the bombs and let's start giving positive words to each other. It will change the climate, I'm telling you. The second idea I share is, what if we tear down the emotional walls between the 2 of us? We build walls by having negative words to each other, and we don't deal with it. And it creates a block between us. And when it creates that block between us, then it just sits there. It doesn't go away. Then we have another event and another block, and we build walls. The only way to tear down walls is to apologize for your failures, and then they choose to forgive you. Maybe your spouse is 95% of the problem. Maybe you're only 5%. Let's apologize for your 5. And then let's see what happens. Maybe they'll forgive you quickly. Maybe they'll say, "Oh, I'll have to think about that." But they're going to go away and think, "Wow, Haven't heard this before. I've heard a lot of condemnation. My fault. Never heard them apologize. You see, your behavior can touch their heart, and chances are, sooner or later, they'll come back and apologize to you. Simple, but powerful in changing the atmosphere. I'll come back later and share 3 more ideas.
Well, it's great to hear from Dr. Gary Chapman, the 5 love languages guy, as he's helping us navigate these strange waters when we're all kind of isolated at home together.
Absolutely. And we have with us to navigate these waters our kitchen couples, but they're in their own kitchens.
That's
so we
right.
have Mike and Diane Clemens, we have Dan and Danielle McCauley, we have Eric and Kara Maines. Like, we're here together, you guys. And you know what? How timely is Dr. Chapman's book, because we are literally stuck at home together.
Stuck? Did you say that with attitude?
No. No.
Little attitude.
Stuck with me?
You're supposed to stop the bombs, Ann. Stop the bombs.
That's right.
Still throwing bombs.
Oh man, I know the word verbal bomb really got to me, because I feel like it's just been an explosive year, hasn't it? 2020. And, I have to say, the word thing really got me, because I'm a chatter, I'm a talker, and I can be, I have to be careful with my words. The Proverbs are filled with so many warnings about words and things that say our words hold life and death. And I think that what happens is it starts in the head. So, we're around each other all the time now. We were before, but even more so. And if he does one thing wrong, sometimes I'm playing in my head over and over, and it's this tape rolling of negativity. And so what I've learned to do is something very practical but very powerful, is to take Philippians 4:8. Whatever is true, noble, righteous, excellent, praiseworthy, all these positive things, we are supposed to think about those. And what we think about, it goes from here out here. So I've done before, and I've actually done this during the pandemic, I have written out a list, done this activity. What is Dan excellent at? What is
I would like to
true
see that
about
list.
Dan?
I didn't know this list
What is
existed.
admirable about him? And
Can I have that list after?
all of a sudden, that would be interesting. I have this laundry list of great things about him, and all of a sudden what happens is that one thing that I was going around that was way up here in my mind.
It was written on toilet paper.
and
That's
coming
where
out.
all the toilet paper
Roll.
went in North America. Sorry.
All of those things, that bad thing, all those good things kind of outweigh it, and in my mind then I have all these positive things, and then I start speaking them out. And so it's the power of our thoughts turning into our words, and instead of being a verbal bomb, it can be a verbal balm.
Yeah.
And healing. Yes.
Ooh, B-A-L-M.
Yes.
L-M. I like that. I liked where he said that we should apologize, even if we might be 5% of the problem and they might be 95% of the problem. I don't recommend you do that math out loud, though, with them. Like, sit down. I think you're about 85% of the problem, and that's math. We did enough math with our kids during homeschooling. Math is not good for marriages. So leave the percentages out, but no matter where you are on that spectrum, being the first to apologize, relationship over rightness, that's a good thing.
Yes.
No, I love that. With us during the pandemic, we also added an addition to our family, and with that comes exhaustion. And sometimes I feel like it's you're just so exhausted that the verbal bombs sometimes just come out, and you're like, shoot, I didn't mean that. It's like 3 a.m.
It's
just
like Bradley
upset.
spit up.
It's like, yes, it just
this
comes
morning,
out, and it
yeah.
just, you're like, what was
So
that?
you're okay. I have to say, you're talking about your precious baby boy,
We are.
Bradley.
Bradley is now 7 months
7 months
old,
old.
and he's really tall. I don't know where he gets
You know
that
what?
from.
He
but-
is just like his father, and he is just exceeding expectations like no other.
See? Wow. You must have a list like Danielle has.
Yes.
You write
I've
it
been
out.
working on them.
Wow. I really liked Gary Chapman's note about practicing in the mirror, complimenting your wife. Like, I don't need to be reminded to love my wife, but I guess I do need to be reminded to verbalize it, to say it out loud to her more often, and the note to even practice it in the mirror, just so you can practice makes perfect, right?
Yeah.
I appreciate that note.
Because I find it so easy to think about these things, but then there's another step in actually saying them.
Yeah.
So like I could have thought about it all day, like, wow, Eric did this and this in my head, but never actually verbalize anything to him. So learning how to do that can actually take your relationship to the next level.
Yeah.
Well, I haven't made a list, but I can relate to Danielle because I too tend to dwell on that negative thing that comes out sometimes. And it's like, oh my gosh. But what I have been trying to do is not make a list, but just in my head, I'll start thinking about all the good things and all the things that he does for me to make me feel good all the time. And all the times that he compliments me, because that's one thing I can say that my hubby is great at, I think, is complimenting me. Even when I'm at my worst days and I feel like I look like crap and I feel like crap. And he always tells me how beautiful I am and how much he loves me. And it just instantly, for me, it just turned things around. Instantly.
But I could never tell you how wonderful you are, though. Words can't express it.
Oh. You see? You see?
That's really
Well, this is been such a challenging time for so many, and if you are fortunate enough, though, to be able to have family safe and all those other things. It would be great, one, just to kind of think about the people who haven't had that chance, right? And is that other perspective as we look out into the other worlds, right? That sometimes gives us a greater perspective of what we have. In addition to that, it's game day. Yes, guys, listen, we got all this time. And so we got all this great ability to practice, and it's really a game, right? So don't throw interceptions. They called them bombs, right? But it's interceptions, right? Don't throw interceptions.
A long bomb.
Complete the passes, right? We want to be a good quarterback and throw all of these complete passes. So as you pass these comments over to your wife, your significant other, make sure you complete the pass. Now, don't throw those interceptions. And so make it a competition. See how good you can. Are you capable of being like Brady? Or are you more like the third string quarterback, right? So make a little bit of a competition out of it. I think it makes it more fun for us guys.
Good.
And
I love that. And
complete as many passes
I'm
as
not
you can.
surprised that, Mike, that you're using the whole, football analogy. That makes perfect sense. And this has been so good. We love this. Like this is like old school. Oh, we're back in the groove here, even though we're in our own kitchens.
Well, Dr. Chapman, he's only given us the first two of his 5. He calls it 5 simple ways to strengthen your marriage while you're stuck at home together. That's his little book he developed during the whole COVID time.
So we've got more coming up from Dr. Chapman, right?
And whether or not you're watching this right now during still the home isolation or not, maybe you're watching a rerun, down the road a little bit.
This is still good
it's
stuff.
still good stuff for your marriage. And so stay with us, and Dr. Chapman's coming back.
All right.
I want to emphasize that it doesn't have to be this big thing. Like you can do very simple, practical steps, and they make big changes once you do them over time.
Hey friends, Ron and Ann here. We're so glad you're with us at A Better Us, and we pray your marriage is blessed as you take this in.
Be sure and hit that subscribe button if you haven't already, and enjoy this video.
Well, let me share 3 other ideas on how to improve your relationship during this time. Number 1 is to discover and speak your spouse's love language. Now, if you know anything about me, you know I would not talk or write a book that I don't mention the 5 love languages, right? I really believe this simple concept has the power to turn a marriage around, because all of us have the deep emotional need to feel loved. And if you're married, the person you would most like to love you is your spouse. If you feel loved by your spouse, life is beautiful. If you don't feel loved, life begins to look pretty dark. The basic idea is that each of us has a primary love language. 5 basic ways to express love to another person. One is words of affirmation. We've talked about that one in the last segment. Giving gifts is another way to express love. Acts of service, doing something for them, cooking meals and washing dishes and vacuuming floors and walking the dog and all those things. Quality time, giving them your undivided attention and physical touch. And out of the 5, we each have a primary love language. If you don't speak that language, your spouse will not feel loved, even though you're speaking some of the others. So discover each other's love language. Speak it on a regular basis, and you create a positive climate in the marriage relationship because you're keeping the love tank full, and you can process everything else easier when you feel loved by each other. A 4th idea is that you rethink your team. Marriage is a team of 2, and you don't have the same role, but you have the same objective. We want to have a loving, caring, positive relationship. Just like an athletic team, they don't all have the same role, but they have the same goal. We want to win. Well, we want to have a winning marriage. And maybe during this time, the playing field has been changed for you. You had it all worked out, who does what. Maybe mom got up and fixed breakfast, and then she went off to work, and dad helped the kids get ready for school, and then he took them to school, and he went off to work, and everything was working fine. Now the whole playing field changed. Everybody's at home now, including the children. The first morning, mom, who's not a morning person, sleeps a little late. Dad's in the kitchen saying to his kids, "Where's mama?" Maybe the role needs to change. Maybe dad needs to do the breakfast now because he's a morning person. Let mom get a few extra hours of sleep. So rethink the team and who does what. And chances are you'll make it better for both of you. And then the last idea that I share in the book is the idea of a daily sit down and listen time. We often say, let's sit down and talk, which means I have something I want to tell you. How about a sit down and listen time? Now, yes, we're going to talk, but the objective is to understand the other person. It's what I call empathetic listening. That is trying to put yourself in their shoes and understand what they're thinking and what they're feeling so that you can affirm that and then say, what can I do, honey, that might be helpful? So you sit down and say, honey, what have you been thinking today? And what have you been feeling today? Now, couples say, well, we're together all day long. I mean, why do we need to sit down and listen? Because you don't know what they've been thinking today and what they've been feeling today. You just see what they've done. And you do this, it's a way of connecting. We're sharing our thoughts and feelings with each other. And not with a view to you telling me what I ought to do about it, but with a view to saying, honey, I can see how you would feel that way. Is there anything I could do that might be helpful? And you both saying that, you're learning how to work together in a positive way. You're getting to know each other deeply, understand each other better, and you're literally having what you wanted to have when you got married. A loving, supportive, caring relationship. I really believe if you'll apply these 5 ideas, simple ideas, this can be a time of growth in your marriage. And that's my desire for you.
Okay, we are back in the kitchen with our kitchen couples, each in their own kitchens. Mm-hmm. And this has been such an unusual time for many of us as we are stuck at home together, as Dr. Chapman's book refers to. But he's trying to give us some insights that's some of the really good ideas for us to work on during this time.
Well, you know what? Listening to Dr. Chapman, it might sound like it's kind of marriage 101. It's just the basic stuff, But when we're living through difficult situations, sometimes you'd have to go back to the basics and remind ourselves of how to communicate well and lovingly. And so that's kind of what we're doing here, guys, isn't it?
Absolutely. I appreciate Dr. Gary Chapman because he's a very practical kind of teacher. I like where he said empathetic listening. A lot of the time I find myself, while Kara is talking to me, I'm already thinking about what I'm going to say back to her, and I'm not truly listening to her. And so, but I'm learning to empathize with her because I would want her to be listening to my words as I'm speaking them, and then she can respond with hers. So then, I need to hear what she's saying, empathize with her, and listen to her, and then respond instead of trying to just think about my own response while she's talking.
It's true. And during this COVID situation, like I've already mentioned, we've added another family member to our little team.
Little baby boy.
And with that, our communication we found was just out of whack. Honestly,
Yeah.
It's like we had COVID and now we have a new baby, and then you throw in all the challenges that come with all of that, and we found that we needed to reboot our system, truthfully. And we were like, okay, what do we need to do that's practical, that's easy? Because as many of you know, having a baby is exhausting, and then
Life
being
becomes
with
about your baby.
your spouse all day long because of COVID, that brings its own challenges. So we actually found that right before we go to sleep, we just have like a quick devotional that we go through together. And during that time, that's when we kind of debrief and we talk about our day and what our needs were and how we could be better tomorrow, basically. And then we end it with prayer, and we just find that praying together helps seal all the promises and communication that we just did.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah,
I love
it was
that.
awesome.
So you're
It got to the point. It got to the point where we were talking to each other through talking to Bradley. Like I'd be holding Bradley. Hey, Bradley, maybe your mother will change your diaper this time. But instead of just turning to her and saying, "Hey, Kara, would you mind changing his diaper?" And like we're talking through. I don't know. Just our communication got all out of whack.
And I want to like emphasize that it doesn't have to be this big thing. Like you can do very simple, practical steps, and they make big changes. Once you do them over time.
Absolutely.
Good. Well, this is Relationship 101 because when he talked about it, I was like, okay, speaking your wife's love language, that's the game plan, right? And then the role and the goal, that's adapting, right? That's how you become a champion. You adapt, you call the plays. And then when he then closed by talking about having the evening chats and that's actually watching the film after you played the game and learning and making the corrections. And so this really is, a sporting event for us guys. Let's get it in order, right? Stick to the game plan, adapt, and watch the film so you can correct yourself and get better.
That's good.
Everything is football. But I love when he talked about the sit down and listen time. There's a quote that says, most of us listen with the intent to respond and not with the intent to hear what the other person actually has to say. And I love that. And with that daily sit down and listen time, that is when you can just actually hear what your spouse or your significant other has to say and what is on their mind. And that just, for me, it works for us because it kind of, like Eric was saying, it seals that bond. It brings you back to one.
That's good. Yeah.
Oneness.
Yes.
Yeah, everyone seemed to be focusing on the talking part, and that was the part that stuck out to me too. It's so good. It's so true. We ran a meme on a Better Us on socials recently that said, without a conversation, all you have are assumptions. So you can, unless you sit down and talk about it, you can think something was one way and it was a totally different way, unless you actually have that debriefing kind of moment together, right? So I can remember a specific instance where Danielle said something, and at the time I took offense to it, and I actually was angry for probably a couple hours before we were on a walk, and I brought it up and we talked about it, and she was like, "Oh, I didn't mean that at all. I meant this." And by the time we talked about it, it was like, "Oh," but we see things in life through a lens, and we've been watching a lot of baseball games with our boys lately, and my sunglasses, if there's a smudge on it and I'm looking through that lens, I can call balls strikes and strikes balls, and because to me it looked a little different. So we're all looking through that different lens, and it's that conversation that takes it from assumption to, because if we don't talk about it, they stack up, and then that anger from the one day becomes bitterness the next day, and it can stack up against us.
Absolutely. So we've talked about football, you mentioned baseball, and now I have a quick soccer story, and I love how he said that we have to rethink our team. Like, we're on the same team here, and so many of us, we fight against each other. Our pastor told a story years ago about his kids on their soccer team, and they didn't know at the beginning, when they're young, they're all swarming around, stealing the ball from each other, and all the parents were on the sideline yelling, "Same team, you're on the same team." And we have to remember that through all of this craziness, when there's so much in the outside world coming against us, we have to remain on the same team. And my heart has gone out to single moms or single dads who don't have someone to tag in or tag out. And so if you're married, take advantage of your teammates. Use them to your advantage and work together, and just remember, same team.
And that's the bottom line, isn't it? We all want to be a better us, and so we're trying our best to be a better us, even in these difficult days of COVID.
And Dr. Chapman even used the gaming analogy, like on a field. He said, with COVID, it's kind of changed the whole playing field, and you got to figure out your roles in a different way.
Right.
So good stuff from Dr. Chapman. By the way, on our website, abetterus.tv, if you scroll down, you can even find your love language right there by clicking on the, discover that.
Well, guys, thanks for joining us from your kitchens. It's always great to spend time with you. We love you guys. We're going to do this again. We're going to do this again. All right, we will.
Okay.
Done.
And remember, we play this game for each other.
That's right. That's it. There's more Better Us coming. Stay there.
Well, it's been great hearing from Dr. Chapman today. He always has such good practical advice for our marriages.
And his wisdom is especially needed right now.
That's for sure.
No matter what's going on in the world at large, applying these 5 principles can be key in bringing peace to the world inside our homes.
Right. It's not easy to handle when our normal routine gets disrupted by forces beyond our control, and we have to adapt to a new normal. Change isn't easy for most people, and then throw in stress, fear, uncertainty, and it's a recipe for some serious issues in our relationship.
It's true, but you know what? It doesn't have to be. We can take some of the principles we've been talking about and ask God to give us His wisdom in applying them to our marriage. And along with it will come His peace into those stressful moments, and His grace will help us relate to our spouse in a calm and loving way.
Right. In the Bible, we're promised an amazing peace when we bring our stresses, our fears to God. And as we give them to Him, He gives us then in return His peace. And that then spills out onto our family.
In our marriage, we have found that to be so true. It's made such a huge difference in the atmosphere of our home.
Right.
But it all starts with a personal relationship with Jesus. He has all of the wisdom and grace you need. You just need to ask Him.
If we can help you with that, please call our prayer number. It's available 24 hours a day and 7 days a week.
With God, there is always hope to become a better us.
Hey friends, we really hope you're enjoying the marriage conversations here with A Better Us on our YouTube channel.
We have hundreds of more helpful marriage videos designed to give you hope and tools to make your marriage better.
You can see just a few options we think you might like here and here.
Enjoy! Oh, and make sure you subscribe by clicking here so you don't miss out on all the great marriage help we have coming your way soon.